Shiva is the supreme cosmic destroyer, an ash-covered ascetic meditating on the frozen peak of Mount Kailash, whose single dance can incinerate the entire universe. If his cosmic dance, the Nataraja, loses its rhythm, the delicate balance of existence shatters, preventing any possibility of rebirth and plunging reality into permanent, formless ash. His power is so absolute that when Kama, the god of love, merely interrupted his meditation, Shiva opened his devastating third eye and instantly vaporized him. Despite his terrifying nature, he is known as Bolanath, the easily pleased, trapped in an endless cycle of granting world-breaking boons to manipulative demons, forcing the heavens into constant warfare. While Shiva destroys the cosmos, our next entity is burdened with building it from scratch. Brahma is the four-headed creator of the universe, sitting atop a lotus flower with a mind so vast that a single day in his existence lasts exactly 4.32 billion human years. If he fails to chant the sacred Vedas from his four mouths, creation itself unspools, and all living beings dissolve back into nothingness. He rides a white swan called Hamsa, meticulously designing every single thread of reality. Yet, he was ultimately cancelled by his own creations. Cursed for an act of blinding pride, the creator of the universe is trapped in an eternity of irrelevance, left with barely 2 major temples in all of India. While the original creator was forgotten, his golden shadow completely hijacked a modern metropolis. Fra-From is the four-faced Thai manifestation of Brahma, an omnipotent deity of fortune whose golden gaze dictates the absolute survival or total ruin of millions. If you insult this deity or fail to provide adequate tribute, your business, your family, and your life will be systematically dismantled by cosmic misfortune. Worshippers desperately hire traditional dancers as living offerings, keeping the Bangkok air permanently suffocating with jasmine and burning sandalwood. The deity's physical idol was violently shattered in a 2015 bombing, but it was immediately reconstructed, proving this god is trapped in a permanent, unbreakable loop of modern devotion. While Fra-From answers daily prayers, the next deity slumbers on the edge of reality, waiting for the universe to break. Vishnu is the supreme preserver, floating on the primordial ocean atop the cosmic serpent Anantashesha, carrying a spinning disk weapon capable of atomizing entire armies. Whenever the universe tips too far into catastrophic chaos, he must physically descend to Earth. If he refuses, reality permanently collapses into demonic anarchy. He has descended as a giant fish to survive a world-ending flood, and as a dwarf who tricked a demon king out of the entire universe in exactly 3 steps. He is trapped in an exhausting, endless cycle of cosmic maintenance, and the world is currently holding its breath for Kalki, his terrifying, apocalyptic 10th avatar. While Vishnu maintains the structure of the cosmos, his consort commands the very lifeblood of mortal survival. Lakshmi is the blindingly radiant goddess of wealth, born directly from the violent churning of the cosmic ocean and flanked by elephants showering her with life-giving water. If she decides to abandon your household, you are instantly plunged into absolute, inescapable financial and spiritual ruin. She is famously fickle, instantly fleeing the presence of anyone who becomes lazy or arrogant, forcing millions to frantically scrub their homes during Diwali just to appease her. She is bound by absolute loyalty, cursed to follow Vishnu into every single mortal avatar, becoming Sita, Rukmini, and beyond, in a never-ending cycle of reincarnation. While Lakshmi brings fortune, our next entity brings overwhelming, sky-darkening terror. Garuda is a colossal, divine half-eagle king whose wingspan is so unimaginably vast it completely blots out the sun. When he was born, he was so dangerously radiant that the gods panicked, mistaking him for the apocalyptic fire god Agni and begging him to physically shrink before he incinerated the earth. He violently stormed heaven, stealing the nectar of immortality just to ransom his mother from enslavement. Today, he operates with complete, lethal independence, trapped in a blood-soaked, eternal feud where he relentlessly hunts and devours serpent deities. The very serpents Garuda hunts are ancient, lethal forces that guard the earth's deepest secrets. Nagas are divine, venomous serpent beings, ranging from colossal snakes to half-human cobras, who silently rule the dark threshold between the living world and the abyss. If humanity angers them, they will viciously withhold the rains, hoard the underground treasures, and plunge the world into a lethal, starving drought. Their king, Vasuki, was literally used as a biological rope, wrapped agonizingly around a mountain and violently pulled by gods and demons to churn creation itself. Despite being relentlessly hunted from the sky, they are cursed to an eternity of servitude, carved into the stone staircases of Southeast Asian temples to stand guard forever. While Nagas guard the earthly temples, our next beings provide the paralyzing soundtrack to the heavens. Kinnara and Kinnari are celestial musicians, half human from the waist up and half swan below, radiating with luminous, divine feathers. If their haunting music ceases, the gods themselves would fall into a violent despair, shattering the harmony of the mythological Himavanta forest. They produce melodies of such absolute beauty that omnipotent deities literally freeze in their tracks to listen. They can never leave the cosmic mountain of Meru, trapped as permanent, silent stone carvings across 1,000 years of temple architecture, singing a song no human will ever hear. While the Kinnari paralyze with beauty, our next beings paralyze with sheer, blinding pride. Asuras are immensely powerful, hyper-disciplined anti-gods who weaponize lifetimes of brutal ascetic meditation to violently overthrow heaven. If they ever truly succeed in holding the celestial throne, the cosmic order will be permanently inverted, placing demons above gods. The demon king Ravana possessed exactly 10 heads, while Hiranyakashipu engineered a nearly ironclad wish of immortality immune to man, beast, day, night, indoors, or out. Yet they are doomed by their own arrogance. They are trapped in a magnificent, pathetic cycle, earning infinite power, overreaching, and getting brutally slaughtered by the gods. The god who usually strikes the final blow against the Asuras wields a weapon forged from pure sacrifice. Indra is the thunder-wielding king of the Hindu gods, riding the massive, four-tusked white elephant Airavata into apocalyptic warfare. If he fails to maintain his grip on heaven, the world loses its reign. Returning to the catastrophic drought, he ended by slaughtering the cosmic serpent Vritra. To forge his ultimate weapon, the Vajra, a sage, literally allowed his own skeleton to be ripped apart and hammered into a thunderbolt. But despite his terrifying arsenal, Indra is mythology's most fallible king. He is constantly humiliated, dethroned, and cursed, trapped in an embarrassing, endless loop of begging Vishnu to save Ichayam from his own incompetence. While Indra constantly loses his grip on heaven, our next entity simply is heaven. Tengri is the supreme sky god of the Mongolian steppe, a terrifyingly infinite entity with no face, no human form, and no capacity for mercy. If a mortal ruler disobeys the mandate of this eternal blue sky, their entire civilization is marked for violent, total annihilation. Genghis Khan explicitly used Tengri's divine authorization as a biological weapon, brutally slaughtering his way across exactly 12 million square miles of the planet. Tengri does not fight in epic battles or suffer mortal defeats. He is the eternal, unblinking observer, silently watching humanity tear itself apart beneath his crushing, atmospheric weight. While Tengri remained formless, the supreme sky god of Korea decided to physically conquer the earth. Hanolim is the divine origin point of Korean civilization, whose sun descended from heaven to violently carve out a human empire. If this divine bloodline had failed to take root, the Korean peninsula would have remained a lawless, feral wasteland forever. He subjected wild animals to a brutal psychological and physical torture test, forcing a tiger and a bear to survive exactly 100 days in a pitch-black cave, eating nothing but raw garlic and mugwort. The bear endured, physically mutating into a woman, and birthed the founder of the Gojoseon kingdom in 2333 BCE, permanently locking the god's legacy into mortal history. While Haneulim birthed a nation, our next entities are birthed from the discarded trash of human violence. Dokebi are terrifying, chaotic Korean goblins formed when ordinary objects, like a blood-soaked club or an old broom, absorb enough human energy to violently mutate into living flesh. If you insult them, they will relentlessly torment your bloodline. But if they like you, they will use their magical clubs to manifest infinite wealth out of thin air. They are obsessed with proving their physical dominance, constantly ambushing travelers in the dead of night to force them into brutal wrestling matches. They are trapped by their own bizarre pride. If a human manages to out-wrestle them, they suffer catastrophic humiliation and retreat into the shadows. From the birth of goblins to the birth of entire islands, our next entities used a single spear to churn a nation into existence. Izanagi and Izanami are the primordial creator couple of Shinto mythology, standing on the floating bridge of heaven to literally stir the Japanese archipelago into reality. Their catastrophic divine divorce permanently introduced the inescapable curse of death to the human race. When Izanami died in absolute agony birthing the fire god, her husband tracked her to the underworld, only to find her flesh rotting, crawling with maggots, and birthing horrific thunder demons. She chased him out in a blind rage. Now, they are permanently separated by a massive boulder. She is cursed to murder exactly 1,000 humans every single day, while he frantically counters by forcing 1,500 new births. The daughter of that broken couple became the ultimate source of life for the newly forged islands. Amaterasu is the supreme Shinto goddess of the sun, radiating such immense power that the Japanese imperial family claims her as their literal biological ancestor. When she was violently driven into a cave by her brother's rampage, she sealed the entrance, plunging the entire world into a catastrophic, freezing darkness that threatened to kill all crops and life. The desperate gods had to throw a deafening, fake celestial party outside the cave, tricking her into cracking the door open just enough to see her own blinding reflection in a sacred mirror. She was yanked out and permanently bound to the sky, forced to unconditionally illuminate the world until the end of time. While Amaterasu rules the day, her brother rules an empire of absolute, terrifying silence. Tsukuyomi is the enigmatic Shinto god of the moon, born directly from his father's right eye, who commands the vast, unexplained darkness of the night sky. His single, violent action permanently shattered the harmony of the heavens, ensuring that the sun and the moon would never, ever share the sky again. Invited to a divine feast, he found the food goddess's magical preparation method so deeply offensive that he drew his blade and immediately slaughtered her in cold blood. Horrified by the murder, the sun goddess banished Hayam completely. He is cursed to spend eternity silently chasing his sister across the cosmos, never allowed to catch her. While Tsukuyomi killed out of disgust, the final sibling kills out of pure, chaotic rage. Susanoo is the catastrophically energetic Shinto god of storms, a violent force of nature born directly from Izanagi's nose during a divine purification ritual. His grief over being banished from heaven caused typhoons so violently destructive that they nearly shattered the celestial realm itself. He eventually redeemed his blood-soaked reputation by slaughtering the apocalyptic, 8-headed Yamata no Orochi, forcing the beast to drink 8 vats of sake before violently hacking it to pieces. Deep inside the monster's severed tail, he discovered the legendary Kusanagi sword, permanently binding this chaotic storm god to the sacred foundations of Japanese imperial power. While Susanoo commands the ocean's storms, our next entity weaponizes the sky's raw electricity. Raijin is the demonic Shinto god of lightning and thunder, pounding furiously on a floating ring of taiko drums with an expression of pure, unhinged joy. If his storms escalate out of control, the vital rice fields are obliterated by lightning, sentencing entire villages to starvation. He is so deeply feared that Japanese parents have warned their children for centuries to hide their belly buttons during a storm, genuinely claiming that Raijin will swoop down and eat their exposed organs. He is locked in an endless, violent, atmospheric dance with his brother, the wind god Fujin, endlessly tearing the skies apart. While Raijin destroys the fields, our next deity determines whether those fields yield life or death. Inari is the gender-fluid Shinto god of foxes, rice, and industry, silently controlling the absolute success or total ruin of both ancient agriculture and modern megacorporations. Displeasing Inari guarantees complete financial collapse, which is why approximately 1/3 of all Shinto shrines in Japan are desperately dedicated to this single deity. Inari operates through a massive intelligence network of supernatural kitsune foxes. A fox, with exactly 9 tails, possesses 1,000 years of accumulated magical power. This deity is eternally anchored to human ambition, suffocated by the prayers of millions who walk through the 10,000 winding torii gates of Kyoto seeking selfish fortune. While Inari controls wealth, our next goddess controls everything in the universe that flows. Benzaiten is the 8-armed warrior goddess of water, music, and time, a fierce protector enshrined on isolated, sea-swept islands. If she stops playing her divine instrument, the flow of time stagnates. Words lose their meaning, and human knowledge evaporates into ignorance. Directly derived from the Hindu goddess Saraswati, Benzaiten evolved into a heavily armed Japanese sentinel, carrying deadly weapons alongside her lute. She is trapped in an endless balancing act, simultaneously fostering the delicate beauty of the arts while fiercely defending her island borders from demonic invasion. While Benzaiten guards her islands, the entire universe is micromanaged by a single, terrifyingly efficient administrator. The Jade Emperor is the supreme ruler of heaven in Taoist mythology, commanding an infinite, inescapable bureaucracy that dictates the exact fate of gods, humans, and the dead. If a single piece of celestial paperwork is misfiled, a human soul could be accidentally tortured in hell for thousands of years. Before claiming the throne, he spent countless grueling lifetimes cultivating virtue and enduring horrific suffering. Yet, his absolute bureaucratic authority is an illusion. He was completely humiliated when a single, rebellious monkey easily battered his celestial armies, forcing the emperor to beg the Buddha to restore order. The creature that broke heaven was not born. He violently cracked out of a magic stone. Sun Wukong is the immortal monkey king, an arrogant, unstoppable force of nature who absorbed the universe's energy until he literally exploded into existence. When heaven tried to treat him like a low-level stable boy, he declared apocalyptic war, threatening to physically beat the celestial bureaucracy into submission. He, wielding an 8,100-kilogram shrinking iron pillar, literally walked into hell and violently crossed his own name out of the Book of Death to illegally achieve immortality. He was totally unstoppable until the Buddha himself intervened, crushing the monkey under a massive mountain where he suffered in agonizing imprisonment for exactly 500 years. The weapon Wukong used to shatter heaven was stolen directly from the lords of the ocean. The Dragon Kings are 4 omnipotent, divine dragons who govern the east, south, west, and north seas from blinding crystal palaces. If they withhold their rainfall, agricultural civilizations wither into dust. If they unleash it, millions drown in catastrophic flash floods. Despite commanding massive, bizarre armies of armored crab generals and spear-wielding shrimp soldiers, they are constantly victimized. They are trapped in a pathetic cycle of being bullied, robbed, and physically beaten by earthly heroes, endlessly filing formal complaints to heaven that are almost entirely ignored. One of the heroes who brutalized the Dragon Kings was a child, engineered purely for violence. Nezha is the sociopathic child war god of Taoism, who emerged from a grueling 3.5-year pregnancy, already fully armed and ready to kill. Just moments after his birth, he punched a Dragon King's son to death and ripped his spine out, triggering a divine incident that nearly caused heaven to obliterate his entire family. To spare his parents from the apocalyptic fallout, the child brutally committed suicide by tearing his own flesh apart. He was resurrected by his master, reconstructed entirely from sacred lotus flowers, granting Haim a new, lethal, immortal body completely severed from human empathy. While Nezha caused chaos in the sea, our next deity sacrificed her mortal life to tame it. Mazu is the omnipotent Chinese goddess of the sea, who ascended from a simple fisherman's daughter into the Empress of Heaven. If a sailor fails to secure her blessing before a voyage, they are guaranteed a violent, crushing death in the pitch-black Pacific typhoons. Born in 960 CE, she possessed supernatural concentration, but died tragically at the age of 27 while attempting to physically pull sailors from a raging storm. Today, she is trapped in an eternity of absolute vigilance, worshipped at over 1,000 temples, and forced to constantly patrol the coastlines to protect over 200 million desperate devotees. While Mazu saves lives, our next mortal-turned god is defined entirely by how many lives he ended. Guan Yu was a brutal, real-life warlord killed in 220 CE, whose legend grew so massive he was progressively deified into an unstoppable god of war and righteousness. Betraying his code of loyalty guarantees swift, lethal divine retribution, tearing your business and family apart. He wields the legendary Qinglong Yanyue Dao, a massive crescent blade practically dripping with ancient blood. He is caught in a bizarre, modern paradox. His fierce wymage is prayed to simultaneously by Hong Kong police officers and the very criminal triads they are trying to arrest, trapped forever by the collective belief of millions. While Guan Yu achieved divinity through bloodshed, our next group hacked the system through sheer eccentric willpower. The 8 Immortals are legendary Taoist figures representing every facet of humanity, rich, poor, old, young, who discovered the absolute secrets of immortality. Armed with reality-bending magical objects, they possess the power to resurrect the dead or transmute solid matter, throwing the natural order into chaos. They famously crossed the treacherous Eastern Sea without a ship, surfing the deadly waves by standing on their individual magical artifacts. Because every single one of them was born a flawed human, they are eternally bound to the mortal realm, with the scholar Lu Dongbin said to still walk completely undetected among us today. While the immortals walk quietly among us, our next entity hunts us with a ravenous, unstoppable hunger. Kala is the terrifying Javanese god of time and destruction, a hideous, subterranean giant born violently from the uncontrolled, spilled seed of Shiva himself. If he is not constantly appeased, he literally devours the fabric of time and swallows innocent children whole, plunging the world into a dark void. Because of his cursed birth, the gods granted him a terrifying loophole. He is supernaturally permitted to hunt and eat any human born on exactly the 3-5-day unlucky cycle of the Javanese calendar. To survive, parents are forced to stage elaborate, all-night shadow puppet shows, trapping the dim-witted god in an endless cycle of theatrical deception just to keep High-AM from eating their kids. While Kala eats the unlucky, our final entity commands an army of severed heads to consume the innocent. Rangda is the Balinese demon queen of black magic, a terrifying embodiment of pure, unadulterated evil and plague. If her dark rituals are allowed to succeed, the world will be overrun by the Layak's cannibalistic witches who fly through the night sky as burning severed heads with their bloody entrails dangling below. She demands a constant, sickening diet of newborn infants and weaponizes lethal diseases to wipe out entire island populations. She cannot be permanently killed, strictly bound in an eternal, violent, and perfectly balanced physical war with the divine lion Barong, a cycle of good and evil that never, ever ends. If you manage to survive this descent into cosmic destruction without getting incinerated by a third eye, eaten by a goblin, or hunted by a floating severed head, you might as well